Hello and welcome to AAI, the podcast on analytics and sports. And it's Memorial Weekend, 1/3 of the Major League season. And gentlemen, start your engines in Indianapolis. Near Indianapolis and looking at the pagoda over his shoulder is Ari Kaplan. Hey, Ari.
Hey, Phil. Hey, audience.
Ari joins us from Chicago, which is nearly close enough to hear the roar of the engines when 33 what is it? 11 rows of three make the parade lap, the Indy 500. I'm an an Indianapolis native, as if we haven't talked about that before on the podcast. So we have great enthusiasm for that, and we're going to lead off with that because there is potentially a major trend for the greatest spectacle in racing. So Ari, Scott Dixon on the pole, and he's the betting favorite. But this is, in many regards, all about betting, whether it's DraftKings or FanDuel or MGM or Caesars, because this is the first year that they'll have a chance to put a few dollars down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. For the first time, they're allowing betting over the season, which I think will be good for the industry. But yeah, it's going to be super exciting. I was at Indy. Seems like about 2 weeks ago now. My company Data Robot sponsored Andretti Sports, and specifically Robert Magenis, Indy Lights. But also it's really all of the Andretti Sports at all different levels. So I've been to a couple cities now, and going to go to Belle Isle in Detroit in a couple of weeks. But yeah, got behind the scenes over multiple days and got to see all the race cars, and we can talk about that for a couple hours, but it's incredible. It's exciting. I was not a full understanding of what goes into it. Both engineering and planning and analytics and data, and have a great appreciation. The one thing I would say, since my main sport is baseball, is people come for one weekend, they see a race, and then they leave. Baseball, you come for a game, there for 3 hours or so, and leave, and the team goes on. They have a series. The race car has the weekend. Then they go on to the next city and the next city. So it's both endurance over the long haul, and then trying to win as many races as you can. And then the macro above that is, if you're like not being in the premier level, the Indy is incredibly hard. One level below is like AAA in the minors, extremely competitive, but only a handful, 1 out of 10 or so can make that promotion. And, the cars are, $1 million, plus upkeep and $300,000 a year just in tires. It's expensive. And if you don't have sponsorship or you start winning some races, it's a costly proposition.
Well, Ari, what fascinates you most analytically about the Indy 500 this weekend, since you were just there at the track a week or two ago?
Yeah, well, the betting is going to be incredible. That's something new. The attendance is very interesting. It is huge. It is enormous. Hundreds of thousands of seats, and then the field where they don't have seats, probably a couple 100,000 more. But when I was there, due to pandemic or whatnot, even though vaccines are looking good, it was like 10% capacity. So I'm curious what that might look like. But then in terms of pure analytics, the level of control. So like, we talked baseball before we started the podcast, and, lefty righty split, 10 points, 20 points, that's pretty impressive. But you're talking like for every entire race, an hour or what have you, 1/10 of a second is the edge you're looking for. So like almost 100th of a second per lap, every edge that you could get, how the engine warms up the first few laps, how the responsiveness of the brakes. So that precision, I did not appreciate just how razor thin it is. So yeah, analytically, it is probably more than any other sport as precision as you can imagine.
I have an appreciation for that for sure. I've covered a handful of them and attended a handful of them. Again, Scott Dixon is on the pole. He's the betting favorite. Takuma Sato, the defending champ, starts on the fifth row. We'll come back to some and have some fun with some of the prop bets at the end of the show. On to the quarter, not even the quarter poll, the 1/3 poll of the Major League Baseball season. 2 months equals 1/3 of the season. That is a short time and a long way from October. In fact, Ari, as we take a look at some trends, for me, one of the trends is this post-pandemic early season anxiety or overreaction. There's no way of understating how grueling 162 is, right?
It is, unbelievable for those that come to just a handful of games a year. It's hard to imagine. It's grueling. It's a grind. So endurance, not just winning every game, but winning the season is what it is.
Well, and one of the things I'm fascinated by, or we'll talk about two of them off the top. One is there's 7 no-hitters so far. So 3 times that would be 21 no-hitters if we're to stay on this pace. And then we have a home run count nightly right now, which also fascinates me that we will be exhausted by the time we get to the All-Star break. But about the no-hitters, can you see that continuing, that pace at all?
Yeah, so no-hitter is kind of a fluke. It's, a little bit random, but the true outcomes, walks, and strikeouts specifically are up. What's down are the hits, the defensive positioning, the better pitching. Hitting's gotten better, but pitching's gotten better at a faster rate. So you're going to see much fewer hits, and just statistically speaking, kind of like playing blackjack. If you can get 27, times that you beat the dealer, it's actually easier than that, since to get a hit, maybe 1 in 4. The odds are in the favor that it's going to probably continue on this pace. And to be honest, I don't know if fair is the right word, but there's 7 no-hitters, and then one was it a 7 or 8 inning game by Bumgarner, which is not a technical no-hitter, but very well could have been, given another couple of innings. And almost every day you see no-hitter going into the 7th, like the Cardinal White Sox just last night. It was fun to have been a scout for 2 of the 7 no-hitters, John Means and Wade Miley, who are no means poster children for command and control, but they still were able to do it. So it'll be exciting to fast forward 4 months and see. I believe the record will be shattered, but we'll see.
Well, at this stage, name for us the top 3 players. Could be a position player or a pitcher, or one guy is both. Name the top 3 players in baseball at the 1/3 mark.
Yeah, well, you brought up both, and one player I can think of is Shohei Ohtani. Super thrilling. So glad he wasn't hurt. Mike Trout, if he's not injured, which he's not, he is always at the top of the list these days. And then, I don't know, there's, maybe Vlad Jr., but Jake DeGrom had some injury, but coming back would be, the most thrilling pitcher out there.
I think that's fair to say, and we're not overlooking Vlad Jr. or Soto or Acuna or Tatis. They're phenomenal. In fact, that's part of the fun of the season so far, of seeing him play every day in and out of injuries. Now, name the top 3 teams and give one thing that supports your contention.
Yeah, I would say like records: Dodgers, Padres, Yankees. The Dodgers are stacked and continue to keep increasing their stackedness from last year and shedding players that other teams, favor. Jock Peterson, for example, but not quite good enough to be a regular player on the Dodgers. So I think they've done a great job of assembling the team and then even improving it from last year. Padres, Tatis and others, they've also done a great job of scouting and filling in with significant trades. The Yankees, I don't know. They've always had depth over the years, although they've been seen as being like an aging depth since they tend to rely more heavily on free agents. But yeah, they're hitting on all cylinders. And then if I were to add a fourth one, being in Chicago, the White Sox,
Right.
which I'm going to go to the Orioles series this weekend. They've assembled a great team and have had a great record so far.
In fact, White Sox, Tampa, Boston. We got to give Tampa and Boston
Yeah.
credit. We'll see if that lasts over the 162. Good answers. Now, there is a problem in Major League Baseball. It is a sticky situation. And here's the problem. It's creating false storylines and false data. Ari, give me the term when artificial intelligence or machine learning kicks out inaccurate data. What's the term for that?
Well, it's like outlier or a guardrail.
Right. And that's what we're getting here is there's plenty of false data. And the beauty of baseball is it reveals truth regardless of you name it. And pitchers are not really hiding that they're using pine tar or some sticky stuff on their hat or on their glove or for nearly every pitch. It's really easy to see. And Joel Wolf, the New York columnist, pointed that out this week. That's a problem I'd like to see solved by the All-Star game. It'll be interesting to see if Commissioner Manfred and others in the sport take a crack at that. What's your view of how that's creating different narratives so far for pitchers and hitters?
Yeah, well, there's that movie, I think it was called Police Squad or what have you, with Leslie Nielsen, where
Right,
the umpire checks him and there's like a chainsaw that drops out of his pocket and
right.
car, and he was just checking for a gun for a what do you call it? A hypnotized person. But anyway, reminds me of that scene where
Yeah,
chainsaws are falling out. But in reality, aerodynamics of a ball, very sensitive to the height of the seam and the core and how tightly wound the yarn is. But on top of that, which is the spitball traditionally, and other substances, they're banned for a reason in that it makes things more slippery aerodynamically or less slippery, more movement, less movement, even an inch or two makes it out of the reach of a bat or a ground ball. So there's a reason why both on the ball and then on the bat, the George Brett, the pine tar was
yeah.
too high up. Also a reason, when the ball's hit, it affects things, whether the substance starts on the bat or on the ball. So yeah, Joel Wolf, that quote, everybody suddenly is Gaylord Perry,
Right.
who's known, for being caught on video. But yeah. Phil, you sent me some videos, texted me, and yeah, I could see it. You could see the ball literally like defy gravity, like in their glove, or the
Yeah.
finger sticks to the glove, sticky stuff. So, they'll have to figure out how to regulate that and enforce it, or make rules, or decide not to enforce it, but just to be consistent.
Well, at some point that's going to blow up. It just will. We just don't know when, or if it'll be regulated, or if it'll end up being a negative. The overwhelming positive story of 2 months so far is Baltimore Orioles outfielder Trey Mancini.
Yeah, it's a big honor. He is one of the nicest players on and off the field. And yeah, I've helped scout a lot of players that ended up in the Hall of Fame, and not saying he's going to be one of them. But yeah, when I recommended him to Dan Duquette to call him up from the minors, it was my top recommendation of the organization. He had a home run his first, second, third game, and became an instant fan favorite and hasn't looked back. To be honest, if he struck out his first 40 times in a row, I still would have had the belief in his ability. But he also had got cancer and recovered. Been out for about a year, so he's an inspiration, like off the field. But in all seriousness, that gotten to know him, outside the camera, and just a genuinely like cool guy, someone I would hang out with when I was in high school, just like a friendly guy. that is a super hitter as well. So it couldn't happen to a nicer person. But yeah, the other thing is, like, I was telling my friends, who are mostly like Yankee fans, they're like, "Oh, I haven't heard of him. Must not be good." And I'm like, telling you, Trey Mancini, he has every ability to be, a household name in baseball.
Well, that's a good way to button up the first 2 months of the season, milestone as we head into the holiday weekend. All right, back to the Indy 500, and we were going to, this is the first year of legal gambling on the greatest spectacle in racing, and the sports betting industry is paying attention. There's good reason. That means prop bets are all on the table. And it could be a prop bet on the winning car number, engine manufacturer, Honda or Chevy, the winning race team. Several teams, some teams own several cars, like the Andretti Motorsports. Driver nationality is a prop bet. You could do the winning car number, whether it's even or odd.
Mm-hmm.
Or even greater than, is it a number value above 20 and a half or below 20 and a half? That's the over under so far. So Ari, the Indy 500 is made for a long day, backyard barbecue, to go watch the race, all of that. Pick one of the prop bets and we'll have fun with it ourselves. Which one you want to go with? What makes sense to you?
Geez. Well, without knowing the odds, I don't know, like a driver nationality USA, I would imagine, just playing the numbers, that most of them are USA. So that would give me the best odds. But the odds in it might not be even 50-50.
All
So
right.
without knowing the split, I would do that. Aside from that, I would try Chevy engine manufacturer.
Oh, no, we're going driver nationality. So you
Okay.
have the good old US of A, and I'll take the rest of the field. I look
Okay.
forward to that. And that last year I would have won. So we'll see what happens. We'll talk about a week from now. Well, thanks for hanging out with us here again as we approach a big weekend, the beginning of summer throughout the North America. Well, for Ari, I'm Phil. Thanks for hanging out with us this week on AAI, the podcast on analytics and sports. We'll see you next week as we talk about the winners and losers of our prop bet. Everybody take care. Thanks, Ari.
Thanks.